Paul Heyman just delivered the most vicious and personal verbal assassination in WWE history, and what the wise man said about Jon Moxley returning to WWE is so disrespectful, so absolutely devastating, that it's created a war of words that could legitimately prevent Moxley from ever coming back to WWE even if he wanted to. If you think this is just typical Paul Heyman trash talk, if you believe this is work storyline drama that will blow over, you're about to discover that Heyman just burned a bridge so completely, so permanently, that Jon Moxley's camp is reportedly exploring legal action for defamation, and WWE management is furious that their most trusted advocate went completely off script with comments that could cost them millions. And if you click away before I reveal the exact insult Heyman used about Moxley's time away from WWE, an insult so personal it referenced Moxley's family and mental health struggles, you'll miss the line that has the entire wrestling world divided on whether Heyman crossed into genuinely unforgivable territory. You're not welcome in WWE. Those 5 words from Paul Heyman's mouth have created the most explosive controversy in wrestling, and the context around why Heyman said them makes this situation even more insane. Let me break down the absolute nuclear fallout from Paul Heyman's promo, because this wasn't just cutting a heel promo, this was a calculated character assassination that went after everything Jon Moxley holds dear, questioned his legacy, mocked his choices, and essentially told him that WWE's doors are closed to him forever regardless of what kind of money or opportunities might exist. The promo happened on SmackDown during a segment where Paul Heyman was supposed to be talking about the Bloodline and Roman Reigns' upcoming title defense. Standard Heyman excellence, building anticipation, selling the drama. But then a fan in the crowd held up a sign that said "Bring back Mox," and the camera briefly caught it before cutting away. That split second of a fan sign was all it took to send Paul Heyman completely off the rails in a direction that nobody, not WWE management, not the production team, not even Roman Reigns himself, saw coming. Heyman stopped his prepared promo mid-sentence, pointed at the sign, and his entire demeanor changed. The smooth, eloquent advocate disappeared and was replaced by something more vicious, more personal, more genuinely angry than we've seen from Heyman in years. "You want to bring back Moxley," Heyman said, his voice dripping with contempt. "Let me tell you about Jon Moxley. Let me tell you about the man who quit WWE, who abandoned his brothers, who walked away from the biggest opportunity in wrestling because his ego couldn't handle not being the guy." The crowd went silent because everyone could feel that something had shifted from worked promo to something more real, more shoot-adjacent than WWE usually allows. Heyman continued, "And what came next was absolutely brutal. Jon Moxley left WWE and convinced himself he was better off. He went to a company where he could be the big fish in a small pond. He fought in parking lots and called it prestige. He bled all over bingo halls and called it art. And you know what? He was lying to himself the entire time, because deep down, Jon Moxley knows the truth: he's nothing without WWE. But Heyman didn't stop there. He escalated into territory that has wrestling fans and industry insiders absolutely divided on whether he went too far. You think Moxley left because of creative differences? Let me tell you what really happened. Jon Moxley couldn't handle the pressure of being in WWE. He couldn't handle the schedule, couldn't handle the expectations, couldn't handle being compared to real stars. So he ran. He ran away and found a place where the standards are lower, where he could be the top guy by default because the competition is weaker. The disrespect in that statement cannot be overstated. Heyman essentially said that Moxley succeeded outside WWE not because he's talented but because he went somewhere easier. That's not just heel heat, that's a genuine insult to everything Moxley accomplished in NJPW, AEW, and independent promotions. It's questioning his legacy, his accomplishments, his entire career trajectory since leaving WWE. And the wrestling world erupted in response. But here's where Heyman crossed the line from vicious promo into potentially lawsuit territory. He brought up Moxley's personal life. "And let's talk about what freedom got Jon Moxley," Heyman said, his voice getting quieter but more menacing. "It got him injuries. It got him wrestling in front of a fraction of the audience he had here. It got him so stressed and burnt out that he had to take time off to get his head straight. Meanwhile, in WWE, we take care of our superstars. We have systems, we have support, we have a structure that prevents people from destroying themselves. But Mox didn't want that. He wanted to be his own boss, and look where that got him." The reference to Moxley's well-documented struggles with burnout and his time away from wrestling to focus on his mental health and family is where many fans drew the line. Mental health isn't something you weaponize in a promo, even a heel promo, even in wrestling where boundaries are often blurred. Heyman essentially framed Moxley's health struggles as a weakness and a consequence of leaving WWE's protection. That's not just heat, that's potentially harmful messaging that stigmatizes mental health issues. The social media explosion that followed was immediate and divided in fascinating ways. One camp is defending Heyman, saying this is the best heel work he's done in years, that he's supposed to be vicious and cross lines, that uncomfortable is where great wrestling happens. These fans love that Heyman went there because it creates real emotion and genuine controversy rather than the sanitized, focus grouped content WWE usually produces. The other camp, and this includes many wrestlers, mental health advocates, and industry insiders, is furious with Heyman and with WWE for allowing that promo to air. They argue that making light of someone's mental health struggles crosses from wrestling heat into genuinely irresponsible content that perpetuates harmful stereotypes. The hashtag Heyman went too far has been trending alongside hashtag protect mental health, with thousands of fans expressing disappointment in what they viewed as a cheap and harmful angle. But Heyman's closing statement is what really detonated this into a full-scale controversy, so to that fan holding that sign, and to Jon Moxley if he's watching from whatever independent show he's working tonight, you're not welcome back in WWE. We don't need you. We don't want you. You made your choice, you burned your bridges, and there's no coming back from that. WWE is the Bloodline's house now, and there's no room for quitters who couldn't hack it the first time. The finality of that statement, the absolute closing of the door, is what has everyone talking. WWE rarely closes doors permanently on talent because the business is cyclical and today's enemy is tomorrow's returning legend. But Heyman essentially cut off any possibility of a Moxley return storyline, at least while he's associated with the Bloodline. That's either incredibly stupid business or incredibly bold creative depending on your perspective. Jon Moxley's response, or rather, his lack of immediate response, has been telling. Mox hasn't posted on social media, hasn't cut a counter promo, hasn't engaged with Heyman's comments at all. That silence is probably strategic and possibly legally advised. If Moxley is actually considering legal action for defamation or if his representatives are in talks with WWE about the appropriateness of Heyman's comments, staying silent makes sense. But it also leaves Heyman's statements unanswered, which in wrestling terms makes it look like Heyman won the verbal exchange. The backstage reaction within WWE has been explosive according to multiple sources. WWE management was reportedly furious that Heyman went off script and made comments about mental health that could create PR problems. There are rumors of heated meetings where Heyman was read the riot act about staying on message and not creating unnecessary controversy. But here's the twist: other reports suggest that while management was publicly upset, they're privately thrilled with the attention and controversy this has generated. The cynical read is that WWE got exactly what they wanted: massive engagement and discussion, while maintaining plausible deniability by claiming Heyman went rogue. The legal implications are what's keeping WWE's attorneys busy this week. Did Heyman's comments constitute defamation? Did they violate any non-disparagement clauses that might exist between WWE and Moxley from his previous contract? Could referencing someone's mental health struggles in a negative context open WWE up to liability? These are questions that actual lawyers are now analyzing, and depending on how aggressive Moxley's representatives want to be, this could escalate beyond wrestling drama into actual legal proceedings. AEW's response to this situation has been interesting and strategically careful. Tony Khan hasn't directly commented on Heyman's promo, probably because engaging would just give WWE more attention. But AEW talent who are friends with Moxley have been subtly supporting him on social media, posting messages about loyalty, brotherhood, and supporting each other through challenges. The subtext is clear even if they're not directly calling out Heyman by name. The wrestling media has been scrambling to understand what WWE's actual position is on Moxley potentially returning. Before Heyman's promo, there were rumors that WWE and Moxley had actually been in preliminary discussions about a possible return down the line when his AEW deal expired. Those rumors suggested both sides were open to exploring opportunities. But Heyman's public burning of bridges makes any potential return infinitely more complicated. How do you walk back "you're not welcome here" if you later decide you do want someone back? The fan-base division on this issue reveals interesting fault lines in wrestling fandom. Older fans who grew up in the Attitude Era when boundary-pushing content was normal tend to support Heyman, viewing this as a return to edgier, more adult-oriented storytelling. Younger fans and those more conscious of mental health issues tend to oppose Heyman, viewing this as unnecessarily cruel and potentially harmful. The generational divide in how fans view this controversy is fascinating. The reality of whether Moxley would ever actually return to WWE was probably small even before Heyman's comments. Mox has been vocal about being happy with his current situation, about appreciating the creative freedom and lighter schedule outside WWE. He's built a life and career that works for him and his family. The Moxley return to WWE speculation was always more about fantasy booking than realistic probability. Heyman's promo might have just killed speculation that was never really viable anyway. But here's the ironic twist that nobody's talking about: Heyman's vicious promo actually helps Moxley in a weird way. By going so hard at Mox, by making it so personal, Heyman essentially elevated Moxley's status. You don't cut a 10-minute promo burying someone unless they matter. Heyman's intensity and viciousness actually validated that Moxley is still relevant, still important enough to warrant this level of attention from WWE's biggest talker. If Moxley truly didn't matter, Heyman would have ignored that fan sign completely. The Bloodline's reaction to Heyman's comments is reportedly mixed. Roman Reigns apparently wasn't informed beforehand about the direction Heyman was taking the promo, which created some tension. The Usos and Solo Sikoa have stayed publicly silent, probably not wanting to insert themselves into controversy that doesn't directly involve them. But privately, sources say some Bloodline members feel Heyman went too far and made things unnecessarily personal in ways that could blow back on the entire faction. The Shield reunion implications are what makes this situation even more complicated emotionally. Moxley, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns were brothers in the most important faction in modern WWE history. There's genuine love and history between these three men despite their different career paths. Heyman attacking Moxley puts Roman in an uncomfortable position of either defending his advocate or standing up for his former brother. The family/business conflict is real and creates fascinating tension. Seth Rollins has been notably silent about Heyman's promo, which is telling. Seth has maintained relationships with both Roman and Moxley over the years despite their different paths. He's the bridge between WWE and the outside wrestling world in many ways. Seth refusing to comment either in support of Heyman or defense of Moxley suggests he's smart enough to stay out of this mess and not pick sides in a fight that benefits nobody. The veteran wrestler reaction has been almost universally negative toward Heyman's approach. Multiple legends have gone on podcasts saying that while heel promos should be intense, attacking someone's personal mental health struggles is crossing a line that the industry shouldn't cross. They argue that wrestling already has a terrible track record with mental health issues and that weaponizing those struggles for heat is irresponsible and potentially dangerous. The sponsor and corporate reaction is what WWE is likely most concerned about behind the scenes. WWE has partnerships with mental health organizations and runs campaigns about supporting wrestler well-being. Heyman's promo potentially undermines that messaging and could create awkward conversations with partners who might feel WWE isn't taking mental health seriously if they're using it as heel heat. The corporate contradiction is glaring. The ratings and attention argument is the cynical but probably accurate read on why WWE allowed this promo to air. Controversy creates engagement. People talking about WWE, even negatively, is better than people not talking about WWE. Heyman's promo generated millions of social media impressions, thousands of articles, and endless discussion across every wrestling platform. From a pure business standpoint, it worked even if it was morally questionable. So here's what I absolutely need from you right now because this conversation is critical for wrestling's future. Did Paul Heyman go too far with his Moxley comments or was this great heel work? Should mental health be off limits in wrestling promos? Do you think Jon Moxley should respond or continue ignoring Heyman? Drop your most honest and detailed takes in the comments because this touches on bigger issues than just one promo. Smash that like button if you think wrestling needs to have serious conversations about what's acceptable heat versus what's genuinely harmful. Subscribe to WrestlingNewsCC and turn on all notifications because this story is far from over and we're going to cover every development, every response, and every consequence that comes from Heyman's explosive warning. Paul Heyman said, "You're not welcome in WWE." He attacked Moxley's career choices, his mental health, his legacy, and his character. The wrestling world is divided on whether this was brilliant heel work or irresponsible exploitation of serious issues. Jon Moxley's silence is deafening. WWE's position is unclear. And we're all watching to see if this controversial promo has consequences beyond just generating temporary heat. This is about more than just wrestling, this is about responsibility, boundaries, and whether the industry has learned anything about protecting its performers' well-being. The conversation starts now.